Well, welcome, Daniel. I'm glad to have you on the show. You're the first guest for Elijah's Cloak channel, and I intended it that way. We're changing the format of the channel to have guests now, and I'm glad to have you as the first one.
I am honored, and I'm so honored to be here. I've loved your channel for a long time, and I just discovered right here 2 minutes before we started recording it that I was going to be the first guest. So thank you, Bob. It's truly an honor.
And I definitely appreciate having you on. And for some who may not know Daniel O'Connor, we do have a lot of new people joining the Divine Will, and often we take that for granted. So Daniel's been a prolific author, and he has a book called Thy Will Be Done, and he also has several other books on the Divine Will. He's an excellent speaker, and I would say he's probably the best speaker on the subject of the Divine Will that's out there today in the English language. So if you need someone for an event you're hosting, please consider Daniel.
I am a knucklehead, though. I'm going to pray for me that I can do a better job living in the Divine Will.
So the other book that is a new book that we like to speak about is a book that was just came out in October.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting date was a publication date of October 7th, which was the start of the terrorist attacks in Israel by Hamas. And I thought that was very interesting. I always look at things like that. So the book is called Only Man Bears His Image. And it's about the alien deception. Now, I love the title. First of all, the titles of both books that I just mentioned are absolutely fantastic. They really nail it regarding the subject at hand. And this title in particular speaks to the fact that we have souls, and that is a distinguishing feature of the human race. I'm going to let Daniel comment upon that, but one of the things I hear all the time is I hear remarks about intelligence, intelligent creatures, and there's different ways of looking at intelligence, and there's different types of intelligences. However, the distinguishing factor is that we have souls, and the fact that there may be a creature, even an existing creature that currently is known to us right now on Earth, that may be intelligent or somewhat intelligent, doesn't mean they have a soul. And I think that's an important distinction to be making when you look at the question regarding creatures.
Yeah.
We look into our past, and we have fossils of Neanderthals, which had bigger brains than we do. Now, they may have used them differently, they may have been shaped differently, but they had very large brains, definitely intelligent. The question is, did they have a soul? Were they descendants of Adam? And I think the answer is no.
Yeah, and the faith really is very clear. And unfortunately, there's this kind of lowest common denominator approach to the faith, where if something isn't explicitly, directly defined as a dogma, some Catholics act like they can believe whatever they want. That would have you rejecting the Immaculate Conception up to the year 1854 as well. You could have rejected the Immaculate Conception in the year 1850, and you wouldn't have been a formal heretic. So it's kind of like what it is today with aliens. This idea that there's all sorts of other intelligent and souled, rational, probably the easiest way to put it, rational incarnate creatures out there other than us, that we're just one of many innumerable, even rational beings, incarnate beings made in God's image. That might not, believing that won't make you a formal heretic right now. So don't worry if you believe in aliens. I'm not accusing you of being a heretic, but you are mistaken. And it is not just any mistake. It's a supremely, uniquely, singularly dangerous one when you consider what door you're opening up when you start believing that there's all these other intelligent creatures out there other than us and angels. Of course, there's angels, but guess what? There's not only angels, there's also demons. And demons throughout history have always looked for different ways to deceive us. In the pagan cultures, the more pagan times, either especially before Christ, of course, but also in other places in the world that Christendom hadn't yet reached, they would constantly torment people. They would appear as the gods, of course. We know that the gods of the pagans are demons. We know that from scripture. But there's also throughout history of various other pagan myths, whether it's elves or fairies or leprechauns or gnomes or troll, whatever. Those are all pagan myths. But the demons will gladly use that as disguise, the dialogue with humanity. But none of those disguises have proven as global, as dark, as apocalyptic as this UFO alien deception. For the last 75 years, they've been telling us that the aliens are here. And it's what compelled me to write this book is how many Catholics are gobbling up this blatant, diabolical lie. The diabolical, you don't even have to scratch the surface to see it. It's right there within what the most famous alien belief promoters are saying. It's right there. They're barely even hiding it anymore. But so many Catholics are just gobbling this up. And that's why I wanted to write this book, giving the really Catholic perspective on it. We've had a number of Eastern Orthodox doing a great job writing against this in recent years. We have some evangelical authors have done a great job writing against this alien deception in recent years. But it's been basically crickets from the Catholic side, or Catholics promoting the deception. So I hope that this book really settles it in the mind of those who managed to read it. And if you might not be able to read the whole thing, it's unbelievably thick. Don't worry. It's got a very detailed table of contents. You'll find in there, you don't have to read it cover to cover. You'll find in the detailed table of contents where exactly to open up to find your particular questions related to this answered.
Well, look at what you said regarding the deception. So there definitely is a distinct amount of propaganda that's being pushed right now regarding this. And you see it's throughout the culture. It's coming from our government. It's coming from media. It's coming from entertainment. And there's a couple themes that I see. One is that the aliens are a threat, or the aliens were already here. The aliens are responsible for a lot of the advancement of our civilization, which makes it look almost like a religion.
It is.
Yeah. So
it's become a religion, yeah.
The reason why we are advanced the way we are today, if you would call us or consider us advanced, is because of alien manipulation. That's the theme that we hear in a lot of cases. Or any type of advancement. We can't figure out how they built the pyramid, so it must have been alien technology.
Right. Yeah, it's become a complete religion, a sci-fi based mythology, and now it's become the modern religion of sorts. And I fear it's going to get much bigger in the upcoming years when this deception gets even more mainstream than it already is. But this is why it's so uniquely dangerous. This isn't just this or that heresy, and all heresies are diabolical, of course. But this is like an umbrella. This ET UFO deception is like an umbrella under which they can gather every apostasy and every deception together. This idea that there's aliens, this gives the enemy, the devil, an opportunity to, in one fell swoop, overturn the faith on our actual origins themselves, our design, our advancement throughout history, our salvation history, our eschatology, our morality, our ecclesiology, our Christology, our Mariology, everything. That's overturned. It chips away to the point of eventually overturning every single one of the main facets of our faith. And it's decidedly anti-Christian eschatological as well, which is why I think this might very well be heralding the Antichrist himself.
So I think where you're going is, and a lot of people, when they talk about the aliens, they forget to talk about implications of the fact that aliens may exist. So if we do have alien races, I would assume if there's one race, there's probably more, so I'll say races, then where does that leave us regarding salvation? In other words, did these alien races, did they fall like we fell? Did they not fall, maybe? And if they did fall, did Jesus redeem them? If Jesus didn't redeem them, then is it plausible that Jesus, who is truly man and truly human, truly man and truly God, would he also come to Earth to redeem an alien race in Alpha Centauri of lizard men?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No,
there's no way to make it make sense. And they try.
Well,
there's all these. Sorry.
The way they make it make sense is they go to the next step, which is, I think, exactly what you're talking about.
Right. other
Well,
incarnations,
there's
other
other
Christs.
incarnations,
Mhm.
and we had this lizard man who's part lizard man, fully lizard man, and
Fully lizard and fully cut, right?
yeah,
And it's so blasphemous, and yet we've got these so-called Orthodox Catholics putting it out there like, oh yeah, this is fine. The church has never condemned this. Of course it has. From the Council of Chalcedon, right from the beginning of the church, the second person of the Holy Trinity, the Word of God, is two and only two natures. From the moment of the incarnation, from the moment the Blessed Virgin Mary gave her fiat, behold the handmaid of the Lord, God became man, and from that moment forward, for all eternity, period, God, the second person of the Holy Trinity, is two natures, human and divine. That is as basic as a dogma as you can possibly imagine.
right.
They try to find the alien promoters, they try to find their way to wiggle out of that, and it all fails. And I've got big chapters in here pointing out how every attempt fails. But even the attempts to say, okay, well, no, there's still only one incarnation, but we still can have aliens. And there's all sorts of different exotheologies. Like there's one theologian right now saying, "Oh, I'm the first to create a Catholic exotheology." No, you're not. Catholics, deluded Catholics, have been doing this for a couple hundred years, actually, since the Enlightenment. They've all been creating their own exotheologies based on the idea that there's aliens, and they're all heretical and blasphemous and apostate to the core. It doesn't matter. There's several different main avenues they try to take to vindicate alien belief with Catholicism and Christianity in general. Not a single one of them work even a little bit. And I've got different chapters on each one of them in the book here, showing how each and every one, sure, as I said several minutes ago, it's not directly heretical to say there's aliens, but no matter what avenue you take to try to make it make sense, you, in every single one, succumb to heresies. The corollaries are always heretical. And that's why this is so insidious. It sneaks its way in to well-meaning Catholics under the guise of orthodoxy, but they wake up the next day as heretics because it's a Trojan horse. It looks okay on the surface, but as soon as you welcome it into your mind, it spawns heresies. No matter what avenue you take in your mind to try to make it make sense, you will wind up with not just a heresy, but an apostasy, whichever path you take. So I'm begging people to be on guard against this. And I'm not asking anyone to believe anything as I say it. I'm asking you to believe the much holier and smarter people than myself that I quote in this book, who there's a million different ways we can show how this is all a lie. And one of them is the servant of God, Luis Picaretta, in which her writings, I've got like a dozen or two quotes in there, direct quotes from the Book of Heaven, every single one of which absolutely rules out the possibility of aliens. So I don't know what's going on with some divine will promoters promoting aliens. I'm not going to try to even guess what's going on there, but it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think at best right now that it's really diversion from probably the current circumstances that we find ourselves in with the apostasy and being in the end times, and also the new era that we're looking forward to. And it kind of takes our eye off the ball, especially with all the issues that we have and divisions that we have in the church between its members. I'd rather be focusing in on that and, proceeding along the lines of discussing how do we go forward and how do we address some of the issues that we currently have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is, at best, very just skeptical, regarding discussions of this. And there's some people that have given it a lot of time, like, I don't want to mention any websites, but there's an apologist website that spent a lot of time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it may be fun for them to do it. They may enjoy doing that. The speculation. It's kind of a mind game, but it also affects the people that are watching it.
Right.
And my concern is that a lot of what we see today appears to be propaganda. Like, I don't believe that it's coincidence today that we're getting this push from all directions about the existence of aliens, where our government, until recently, they were saying that we don't have anything on the aliens.
Right. And then suddenly 2017, I think that leaked New York Times report, and then 2021, the hearings, this is exploding.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
the first explosion of this whole UFO aliens are here phenomenon was in 1947, and I think I've got a whole chapter in the book on that. Like Louisa, Jesus would repeatedly tell Louisa, "You're holding something back." Like her sufferings, she was a victim soul, of course, and she was holding something back. Her sufferings on earth, but Jesus would tell her, "Once I take you to heaven, the music stops. Like something, whatever you're holding back, won't be able to be held back anymore." Like weeks after she died, the UFO deception starts.
Oh,
And there's a bunch of there's a bunch of other indications as well that moment was a huge turning point. But and it would be another hour to get into that from the book, but that's in there. But yeah, you're right. It's not coincidence that this is we suddenly have this. There's parallel psyops here. There's the directly demonic one. The demons see this as a convenient guise to use to dialogue with humanity. But there's also the government psyop. The government, that's men, so men can do things that demons can't, and demons can do things that men can't. But when the government starts to consider the alien deception as a convenient psyop, that's when we're going to see this, quote, day of disclosure, when the government's going to say, yep, we admit it finally. That's why all these leaks, all these whistleblowers, that's all concocted, that's all fabricated, so that when they have the day of disclosure of aliens, it looks like a victory of the people just demanding this year after year, when in fact it was planned all along.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I believe exactly the same thing. The whistleblower that we're hearing out just recently in so-called congressional hearings, that's all fabricated. That's I don't believe he's a whistleblower. I believe he's an asset, and he's been fingered to actually provide a leak or provide the information they want.
You're right. Oh, my dryer's making noise. Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. But I will say, I don't actually know if David Grush himself knows he's they might have leaked him bogus information, knowing that he'll think it's true. And then maybe they just let him go with his bogus ideas. Or maybe all this is a lie. I don't know. But either way, I know there's no alien. I know they don't have aliens in the government lab. I know that for sure.
Either way, it's an asset.
It's an asset one way or the other.
Yeah.
And you look at how apocalyptic this is getting. This is not my speculation anymore. I was speculating about it when I started writing against this a few years ago. Now it's not speculation anymore. They're saying it. David Grush, he comes out saying openly at a conference just a few weeks ago, this is well after my book came out, he's saying, now we're approaching the moment, thanks to this alien disclosure and UFO disclosure, we no longer have to speculate about our place in the cosmos. We're in a new era of spiritual awakening. Yeah, we are in a new era because of the living in the divine will, the kingdom of the divine will, not because of the aliens. This is, the devil apes all of the things of God. So of course, now that God is telling the authentic seers about the era of peace and this grace of graces and this new era of spirituality based on the holiness, of course, the devil is going to ape that with his false, diabolical new era of the spiritual awakening from the aliens, the extraterrestrials, the UFOs. They call them also ultra-terrestrials, interdimensional, whatever they call them tomorrow. It's all this sci-fi delusion based on the notion that there are other beings other than men, other incarnate beings other than men, who have rationality, who are made in God's image with spiritual souls, which there are absolutely none of, and we can be certain of that. Yeah. So yeah, it's reaching a crescendo.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because he really is selling it, in the congressional hearings. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's transpiring in this manner is that if the government did it, if you had someone from the State Department say what he's saying, what would be the next question? Show me. I want to see them.
Right.
Where are they? Show me the craft. You said
this is much more convenient.
You've recovered craft. You have recovered bodies. Mm-hmm. Let's see them. I want to see them.
And they're probably building some fake alien bodies and craft right now, so that once they do want to institute the day of disclosure, they'll have something to show us. But yeah, you're right. Doing it this way is convenient in every possible way, because they don't have to back up the claims. They can just let loose this loose cannon, knowing exactly what he'll do, either because they fed him lies or because he himself is a liar. I don't know which. But with him, eventually, he's stirring up all this support right now. I mean, he was just on Joe Rogan, the world's most popular podcast.
Wow.
He's exploding throughout the world, this guy, with saying that he says, I'm 100% certain the aliens are here. 100%, he says. Well, guess what? I'm 100% certain they're not. I'm 100% certain they don't exist. And I don't say that lightly as a philosopher. My job is to never say that unless I am certain, and I am certain here. So it's all a deception. But it's not just Grush. I mean, he's probably the biggest name now. There is at Harvard, this huge global celebrity physicist, Harvard astrophysicist, Avi Loeb. He's been searching for aliens for many years, and he suddenly started making global headlines earlier in 2023, saying, I found alien technology on Earth. But he had commissioned some digs in the Pacific Ocean or something, and it later came out that he just found industrial waste. But of course, those news articles didn't get the exposure that the original claims did. But here's what he said recently. He said, and he's a Jew, this guy, Avi Loeb. He said, the Messiah won't come riding on a donkey, like the book of Zechariah says. The Messiah will come on a spacecraft. That is the most diabolical thing you could imagine saying. He is explicitly laying out the red carpet for the Antichrist. And no one's sounding the alarm about it. And he's this global Harvard celebrity physicist. People are asleep. They don't realize this demonic deception being rolled out before our eyes because too many Catholics are afraid to call it out, because we've been told by all the career lay apologists for decades now, oh, no, aliens are fine. You can believe whatever you want on that. In fact, they exist. It's just garbage. The faith has so much to say about this. If you take the scripture seriously, if you take the fathers seriously, if you take the papal magisterium seriously, the ecumenical council seriously, private revelation, or even just science, if you take any one of those seriously, and that's why I've got separate chapters on each in the book, you will see there are no aliens. You can conclude that with certainty, even though it's not a dogma. 2 + 2 = 4 is also not a dogma, but you can be certain of it. It's you will examine any of those paths independently, and each one will independently lead you to the conclusion that there are no aliens. So you know that when you're told there are, something is amiss. There is a diabolical delusion going on.
So the question has to be, why the onslaught that we see today? What's different about today that necessitates this deluge of propaganda regarding aliens?
We're getting close. We're getting close to the day of disclosure, I think. And I don't know when exactly, but everything that they're publishing.
Well, I could even ask that about a day of disclosure. Why soon? Why now?
Because the devil's ultimately behind it all. And he realizes his time is short. And I think this is my speculation. This is not something I'm claiming certainty of, but I speculate that the Antichrist himself will be presented as an extraterrestrial, or as someone in contact with the extraterrestrials, or an emissary of the extraterrestrials, or something like that. So I think that before the Antichrist can make his formal entrance, the day of disclosure has to happen. The announcement that, yes, there are aliens. We've found them. Or they're here, or we're in contact with them, or whatever. Once that announcement's made, then I think the red carpet's already been laid out for the Antichrist to say, here I am. I'm the extraterrestrial. I'm the one that the Alpha Centaurians or whatever is sent to save you guys. And mankind is begging for salvation today, but not from Jesus Christ. So they're looking for salvation in all the wrong places. And they are looking to the heavens, not in prayer, but in giddy excitement for when they finally get to see the aliens who don't exist. And I think that the time of the Antichrist must be soon. I think it is very soon, because I believe that the kingdom of the divine will, I believe the era of peace is coming very soon. Jesus tells Louisa, every 2,000 years I renew the world. And he doesn't say it's going to be exactly 2,000 years later, but we are approaching. It would be fitting, wouldn't it? It would be fitting if the reign of the divine will came exactly 2,000 years after redemption, 2033. And if it is going to, and redemption itself, our calendar's a bit off. That could be several years earlier. So it could be anywhere from 2026 to 2033. That if it's going to be a perfect 2,000-year anniversary thing, the 3.5-year reign of the Antichrist has got to happen before that. So I think the devil realizes his time is getting very short, and that's why his fury is increasing.
Yeah, the only thing I look at too is it's coincidence that we're also approaching the time of the warning that was mentioned by Garabandal and other apparitions and saints, and that's also a convenient deception. If the warning came, they could always say it came from aliens.
Exactly. They'll need a way to write that off.
Yeah, and I see it as a big possibility.
Yeah. We know that the devil will try something to steal away the graces of the warning. And I've written posts in the past speculating that maybe scientists will try to chalk it up to some sort of gamma ray burst, and maybe they'll do that. But it would be even more fitting. It would be even more convenient of a ruse if they had already announced the aliens at that point, or if they announced them right after that, to try and say, no, this wasn't any sort of religious event. This was something from the extraterrestrials who have finally arrived. Steal away those graces. The book of Revelation, the dragon comes to the woman to devour the child. And of course, there's multiple symbolic layers in that. But one of them is certainly that these outpouring of graces in the eschatological times we're approaching, the apocalyptic times we're approaching, they will all in some way be viciously attacked by the devil. He will try to take credit for God's. The devil doesn't just want, he loves people being atheist, yes, but ultimately the devil doesn't want you to be an atheist. He wants you to worship him. So atheism is like the step in the path to Satanism in what he ultimately wants. So the devil actually, he's very happy with atheism, yes, but he wants actually to himself get credit for what God does. And one of the ufologists, one of their biggest things is Our Lady of Fatima. They try to say that Our Lady of Fatima was not an apparition of Our Lady. They don't believe in her anyway. They try to say it was a UFO. This is huge. They're trying to write off Fatima as a UFO.
I've had viewers or commentators come and leave comments on my videos about that.
A ufologist saying it was a UFO.
Yes.
Yeah. This isn't some random fringe theory. I mean, it's crazy, of course, but it's not rare. And this is what just really is troubling about how nonchalant Catholic commentators have been for so many years about this. This is the most diabolical garbage you could imagine, but too many Catholics are afraid to speak against it because the apologists keep telling us, oh yeah, aliens and Catholicism are fine. No, it's not. And again, as I said, I prove it's not in this book. I do prove it.
Yeah, and it falls into the category in my mind that they look at the aliens or possible alien life like a religion. So anything they don't understand, Marian apparitions, it's a convenient way to compartmentalize something they don't quite fully understand or don't want to understand. Rather than have to change their life and take it on and understand what's really happening, they'll just say something like, well, aliens are
They've got the one excuse, right?
Yeah,
it's what scholars call a library angel. There's not a real angel. It's this idea for a concept that suddenly gives explanatory force to all these other concepts you didn't previously understand. And a number of scholars have explicitly referred to ufology as the library angel for all these other things. So scholars don't want to admit anything about God or religion or faith or anything or miracles. So they want something to explain away all that stuff. And that's just the scholar side of it, calling it this a library angel. But for the ordinary folk, yeah, they don't want the baggage of dogma and morality. They want the mysticism. Increasingly, we are in the postmodern age now. It's no longer about rationalism and atheism. We're moving past that, as I said, into paganism and Satanism. We're reverting back to pre-Christian times. So people want the mysticism, they want the religion, but they don't want the morality, the faith in Jesus Christ, and all that old-fashioned medieval stuff. So They're finding that in ufology. They're finding that in their expectation of extraterrestrials. And this gives them the key, as you said, to explain away everything else.
Actually,
and this is not... It's worse. Yeah, this is not me speculating about what might happen. They're already doing this. We've got books and books and books about how all the miracles in the Bible, they were actually just misunderstood UFOs. All the apparitions, they were just misunderstood UFOs. Demons in the past, they were just misunderstood UFOs. This is becoming, in every single facet you can possibly think of, a religion. This ufology, belief in extraterrestrials, is a religion today. It really is. It's the fastest growing one.
What I made before in my videos, we're actually in a situation where we're worse than the pagans in their condition, because the pagans were pagan because they didn't know Christ.
Exactly.
And we know Christ, and we know his teachings. We've had 2,000 years of it, and we're rejecting it. So we're in a much worse condition than the pagans.
Much worse. Yeah. Not even close. I mean, we are way worse than before the flood right now.
And we'll attach ourselves to any idol, whether it be alien, whether it be material, and basically living for the world. We'll do that. That's what we see the world doing right now today.
Yeah, and it's this. Then of course, there's many idols out there, but I can't think of a single phenomenon that is as global, as apocalyptic, and as diabolical as this one, which is why I'm sounding the alarm so much against it. And it's something that's not just, something like witchcraft or something that's diabolical and evil, of course, but you don't see government congressional hearings saying about this, like the ufology, the alien stuff. This is completely mainstream, and it's just as diabolical as anything else. If you doubt that, see part 4 of my book, and you won't doubt it anymore. It's more diabolical than anything else going on now, explicitly. So when you see something that dark, so mainstream, that can't not have apocalyptic repercussions, I'm afraid.
So speaking about the apocalypse, I'm going to make that a segue into, let's talk a little bit about some end time concepts I know I've heard you discuss